Good morning. My name is Pat Call. My late wife Veronica, who died at the age of 64 on the 8th of February 2021, was one of the 27 residents who died during the COVID outbreak in the Care Choice Ballyknoe Nursing Home Cork in January and February 2021 during the third wave of COVID after the Meaningful Christmas 2020. Primetime investigations and the expert opinions found that these failures failed and endangered those living in the home. Essentially, the failures I will outline likely cost people their lives. The first failure was by the Care Choice management and their decision to implement changes in how the home was to be run. This resulted in the Director of Nursing and two senior clinical nurses, one of whom was infection prevention control nurse, leaving on Friday the 11th of December 2020, and on the same day the Assistant Director of Nursing stepped down from that position within the home. The second failure was by government, who on the 24th of December 2020 relaxed the level 5 restrictions against medical advice. This reckless decision escalated the spread of COVID that resulted in almost 2,500 deaths during January, February and into the first 2 weeks of March 2021. Many of these deaths were preventable. The third failure was by the new management in the home since 11th of December 2020 and how the COVID outbreak was managed. The serious concerns raised by the bereaved families has resulted in a Garda investigation by the Protected Services Unit, Cork City, into this home. The fourth failure was by the HSE when concerned by the excessive spread of COVID amongst staff and residents planned to visit the home on the 25th of January 2021. This visit never happened. Why? If it had taken place, lives would have been saved. The fifth failure was by HICWA when contacted by a staff member on Sunday, the 31st of January 2021, and the concerns of another staff member on Tuesday, the 2nd of February, about deaths was forwarded to them by the HSE. But HICWA did not go into the home until the 11th of February. Up to and including this day, 24 residents had died. Sadly, 3 more residents were also to die. 22 residents in this home died over an 11-day period. The sixth failure was by the HSE Cork Kerry COVID response team, who had serious concerns about this home in January, but when contacted by a staff member on a number of occasions from Tuesday the 2nd of February about the high level of deaths, did not go into the home until the 16th of February. By this time, 24 residents had died. 3 more deaths were to follow. Why was there a delay? Did alarm bells not ring on Tuesday the 2nd of February? The seventh failure was by the previous coalition government and continued by the present coalition government. Both have continuously ignored the Care Choice Ballyknoe Families Group and the Care Champions families from across the 26 counties in their calls for meetings to discuss serious concerns and to learn from their lived experiences so that better safeguarding across all care settings can be put in place. Thank you for your time.
I love that.
I'd like to now call on Kieran, who lost his dad in a Wexford nursing home in Wales.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming. Hello, my name is Kieran Brady. I'm here today to represent my father, James Jimmy Brady. My father ended up in a Wexford nursing home in August 2020 after he had a massive seizure at home and he went on to the hospital in an ambulance. After speaking with the doctors and seeing my father in a completely unresponsive state in the hospital, we agreed to transfer to the nursing home. After a week there, my father was back in good form again, back to himself. We got to see him once a week through the windows by appointment, and we tried to use phones on either side to try to talk to each other. My father had dementia, but he wasn't too bad, and he kept asking us, "When are you bringing me home? Why can't you get into me?" have you all forgotten about me? It was breaking all our hearts not being able to give him a hug or even hold his hand. In 5 months, my mother and myself got inside the home twice, separated by glass screens and not getting near each other. Looking back on it, it was all so cruel on all involved. It was like he was a prisoner or something, and we should be grateful to see him once a week. I remember when the government announced they were easing restrictions that Christmas, the meaningful Christmas. I thought, this is mad. The virus will spread everywhere, out of control, and get into the nursing homes. And of course it did. My father got it from a staff member and was isolated while waiting on test results. He would stay in that third floor room alone for almost 3 weeks until he died on the 18th of January 21. I had asked when he tested positive, what happens now? I was told they were not taking nursing home residents to the hospitals as he wouldn't be looked after because of his other medical ailments, etc. And that they would have to do the best they could there and just hope for the best. I'll never get over the guilt I feel for not fighting to get him into a hospital. I'm still being denied his medical records from the home, as apparently they don't have to provide them to the families. I've lots of questions I want answered, and I've reached out to local and national politicians only to be ignored or fobbed off. It's like the thousands of people who died in all care settings. Didn't matter, there was just collateral damage. The government's meaningful Christmas has left a lot of us visiting graveyards. This time 60 years ago, my mother and my father got married. And who knows, if my father had got hospital treatment when he needed it most, he might have been here to celebrate his anniversary. Rest in peace, Dáil.
So the following slide is the experience of the families here today and the families that we represent. We represent families who have experienced poor care, but we do acknowledge that there is good care out there, but this is just our experience. We'll play a song behind it that just has a very clear message of we have to find the strength inside of us to do this. So no matter how hard we have to fight, we will continue to fight and we will not be silenced. So it's time now that action is taken. and we would ask you to find the strength in you to fight like we do. I invite Magella Beattie now to express our key asks.
So I suppose, our experiences, we believe that we had a broken system, a broken care oversight system before COVID. So we believe it's very important that we note that the weak safeguards in our residential settings were already well understood in 2020. The Irish Association of Social Workers, along with organisations such as ourselves, Care Champions, Age Action and others, wrote to the government highlighting our grave concerns about the existing gaps in adult safeguarding and the risks of locking people down behind closed doors. In 2020, Ireland signed a UN policy brief which stated, "We are deeply concerned about distressing reports indicating incidents of neglect and mistreatment, as well as the high rates of mortality due to COVID-19, which are affecting older people living in nursing homes and care institutions." The UN called on countries to introduce additional safeguarding measures to combat increased risk. In Ireland, no such measures were introduced. In fact, some of the safeguarding teams were in fact redeployed to other duties. Our families saw firsthand the consequences of Ireland's failure to act. We recognise that in many cases care was good. We are also aware of a widespread pattern of failure to provide safe care, resulting in abuse and neglect. We saw one of the most stringent medical model approaches in Europe, which saw older people and people with disabilities as residents only, who could be separated from their families wave after wave, while across Europe or other jurisdictions successfully and safely reunited them from wave 2. We had no human rights expert to remind the doctors and the scientists that they needed to recognise residents and patients as individuals with autonomy and human rights. While Care Partner was introduced in Northern Ireland in November 2020, we are still waiting. And as Joanne will tell you, we were locked out. We acknowledge that the early days of Wave 1 was a mess for everyone. Our families' experiences are evidence that more could and should have been done. We are aware that the Department of Health is working on a sector-specific policy. Policies are not enough. Policies have not changed practices. Policies did not save our loved ones. Policies did not prevent Joanne being locked out while her mother was passing away in December 2024.
So I'll now introduce Joanne, who, as Magella said, lost her mum Christmas just gone, 2024. She was denied entry into the hospital in the days leading to her mother's death. No lessons learned, a lonely past.
Just going to speak, but I'll be back again. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joanne, and thank you to Magella for inviting me here today. She's been amazing, as have Care Champions throughout this whole process. I'm here today to speak on behalf of someone who no longer has a voice, my mother, Marie Mullen. She was 85, just 8 days short of her 86th birthday when she passed. A strong, fiercely independent woman and the heart of our family. She was someone who lived a full life, who lived a life of challenges with our dad dying suddenly 25 years ago, just the night before they moved into their new retirement home in County Wexford. But she always kept her spirit, her good humour. She didn't let anything hold her back. She was optimistic. But in her late 70s, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. As a family, we rallied around her with my 3 brothers. I was living abroad, so I decided it was time to come home. We were determined to keep her safe and give her the best life we could, and most importantly, to keep her surrounded by love. She adored having her family around, and every time we left, she'd be sad. Please don't. Really enjoyed her family's company. She didn't really like to be alone, although she was very independent and lived for all of those years, most of those years, on her own. My eldest brother moved into our home in Wexford later on in life, and we were lucky to have him there, along with some daily nurses. But still, every step of the way, we were fighting for that extra care, fighting all the time against the bureaucracy for house, for everything related to her illness. And it shouldn't have been a battle to give someone the dignity and comfort in those later years. But eventually, as her needs increased, home care became difficult, and she had several falls, one of which left her with a fractured wrist. So in late 2023, she moved from Wexford General Hospital to Castlebridge Nursing Home for convalescence. She returned home briefly, but after another fall was readmitted to hospital early in 2024 and was placed in long-term care. We chose Tallaght Nursing Home because it was affiliated with a daycare centre called St Mary's that she attended 3 times a week from her home, and it was a little bit of respite as well for her and for the family. We thought that, giving her structure and routine would help, but very soon after her admittance to Tallaght, we heard that my mum was not showing up at St Mary's anymore. We asked why, and we were told that St Mary's, she wasn't welcome at St Mary's anymore because of behavioural changes. And we suspect that was due to the medication, which we later found out that they were giving our mother. Everything changed. When we visited, she was slumped in a chair, completely sedated. A couple of incidents where she was vomiting and not being attended to, holding a little box in the centre of the floor in a wheelchair when we would go in. She was now unable to form a clear sentence. She was no longer herself, and we were absolutely terrified. We later found out she'd been placed on Seroquel. It's a psychotic drug not recommended for people with Alzheimer's or dementia. It has severe side effects that can cause stroke and even early death. We quickly asked for her to be taken off this medication, and a meeting was set up with the prescribing doctor. We were angry, we were confused, and most of all, we felt helpless. They had 2 day rooms in this nursing home. One was a bright, sunny day room full of music and people chatting. The second one was a dark day room with no light, no stimulation, and this was the one they placed our mother in, highly sedated. When I would go in, I would walk along this long corridor down to this dark room at the back of the nursing home, and I just didn't recognise the person in the chair. I just did not recognise this person. In the space of a few weeks, she had completely changed. And I'd ask the management, why can't my mum sit in the bright, sunny, happy day room? And we were told she's not suitable for that day room. So after a few incidents, it was very upsetting. I'd have to drive the N11 2 hours after, all the way back to Dublin. And in May 2024, after a serious incident at the home, we made the decision to move her back to Castlebridge, the first nursing home she was in, which was a bit further away and not affiliated with St Mary's. And this is where Care Champions came into play, and I contacted Majella. And honestly, it was life-changing for us. Within weeks of moving her back, she was laughing again, singing, had made friends. Her wit, her quick wit had returned, her sparkle. And my daughter Zoe, who's here with me today, her granddaughter, will attest to that. Like, she was a different person when we moved her back to Castlebridge. All medication was removed, Seroquel, Xanax, 3 Xanax a night, which she'd never been on before. And all she was on was her diabetes and her cholesterol medication when we moved her back. And she just returned to her old self again. We loved visiting her at Castlebridge. Families were welcomed. It was a beautiful nursing home. There was a new manager there. She just did an amazing job. There was seats for all the visitors. You could sit having dinner with her. You could, in Carlogue, you had to take your parent and bring them down to the bedroom when you visited. You weren't allowed to sit in the day room with them. So it was just a completely different experience. But then in December, my mum fell ill, and actually we called in on the 19th of December, Zoe would have been with me, and you went in first, and she said, oh, Nanny's not well, and you could tell she was very sick. So I asked the staff in Castlebridge, and they said, we're keeping our eye on her, but our resident doctor has returned to his country because it's Christmas, so we don't have a resident doctor in place today. So we called the care doc, but the care doc didn't turn up. And so later that night, we called an ambulance to take her from Castlebridge. So she was taken to Wexford General that night. The ambulance came at 4 a.m, so she was a few hours waiting. We went to A&E with her, and they diagnosed that she had sepsis as a result of a UTI infection that wasn't really seen to. So we were in A&E for a number of days with her, and she then was admitted into a private room, which we were delighted about, on St. Bridget's Ward, where she would spend Christmas. And we were going in and out, and we heard her Alzheimer's was quite advanced. She knew she was sick, but you know, she definitely had a very short memory, and so everything was very confusing for her. So in A&E, when a patient with Alzheimer's, and she'd been admitted there several times, when a patient with Alzheimer's is in there on a bed in A&E for days on end, it's very challenging because they don't have the support in A&E to stay with that person. And you're just absolutely exhausted. It goes on for 3-4 days sometimes before they actually get a bed or a room. And every minute it's, you know, where am I? Can I go home? And so it's really, really challenging. But anyway, she ended up for Christmas in Wexford Hospital, and we were driving up and down each day to see her. And on the 27th, she had 2 very terrifying episodes. There was 4 of us in there with her, and she was going down for a scan, and to me it looked like we were losing her that day. And there was no doctor, and later on a doctor came down and asked, you know, me to explain what we had witnessed, which was hard to do, but we did that. And then on the 29th, we were going down to visit, and I was almost at the hospital when my brother Tony rang me, and he said, they won't let you in, Joanne. They've put a ban on visiting from today. And I said, why? And he said, because of the flu virus. And I called the hospital and I said, you know, I've just driven, please can I go in on compassionate grounds? My mother has Alzheimer's, very advanced Alzheimer's. And they said no. So we turned around and we came home, and every day I called, can I come down? Can I please visit? And the answer was no. And I said, she's in a single room, she's in a private room, I'll mask up, I'll put a gown on. And the answer was no. And they said, in fact, we've moved her from her single room to a 6-bed ward. And I said, why, with her being so ill? And they said, because she's not immune compromised anymore, or she's not immune compromised, so we needed the bed for somebody else, so she's moved to a 6-bed ward. So we can't let you in now, because there's other people to consider. So every day I called, and I was just absolutely, we were heartbroken in the family not being able to get into her, because she was so used to having us all around, and she was so ill. And on the morning of the 4th of January, I called the hospital, and as I did every morning, and I asked how she was doing, and they said she was doing well. Her infection markers were down, and they would be looking to transfer her back to the nursing home. This was the Saturday, the 4th, and they'd be looking to transfer her back to the nursing home on the Monday. I was delighted. I was so happy with that news. And they said she's eating a little bit and she's chatting. And I said, can I come in and see her? And they said no, again. And then at 7 o'clock that night, we got a phone call to say, your mother passed away. And one of the nurses noticed it after the fact, when they went to attend to her for whatever reason. So I was just devastated. I couldn't believe that she was gone. And she left without a goodbye. She left without any of us being able to go in and tell her how much we loved her. And just to say goodbye, and it's absolutely inhumane, in my opinion. Sorry, I was speaking from the heart there, but I told them I'm not, I don't have flu. And, if I could just, protect myself to go in and see her, but they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't listen to me. And so and we as a family are tired of the system that failed our mother in so many ways, both in the nursing home, in the first one, and in the hospital. She was vulnerable. She had Alzheimer's. She deserved some dignity and compassion in her last days on this earth. So I stay here today, and I stand here today in her memory. I speak because she cannot, and I hope that her story will spark the change that we desperately need in the nursing home areas and our hospitals. And I might add that during that time when we had all the problems with the nursing home, Safeguarding and HICWA were contacted. And I'm giving you a very short synopsis of the many incidents that we encountered. That's just a couple of them, but some of them were very serious. And to be honest with you, we weren't supported. So I hope no other family will have to endure what we did, and let no other parent die alone because of policy over humanity. She will be forever missed, and I will carry that forever, the fact that I could not get into a hospital because of a flu virus, when I could have masked up and I could have protected myself. I wasn't sick. I could have done a test. There's so many ways around these things. We're not asking them to let an entire family in. We're asking them to let one person relate to that family. And yet, when she passed away and we travelled down that night to Wexford Hospital, they let me into that 6-bedroom ward at midnight to say goodbye to my mother, with everybody in the beds around her. They put a gown on me, they put a mask on me, and they said, now you can go in and see your mother. It was too late. She was gone. She was gone 4 hours, 5 hours. So it's just inhumane. I just don't get the system. I don't understand it. And to me, what I saw during our experience was the nursing home was 100% protected by the people who are supposed to be looking after us. 100%. It was shocking to see what went on in the first nursing home, honest to God. And I've only given you a brief insight into some of the things. Brief. So that's our story. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
So I'll invite Magella now to summarise and to set out our key acts.
Thank you, Maria. So I suppose in summary, our stories today are brief reflection of experiences of many people in all care settings across the country. And while we will always promote and acknowledge good care, when things go wrong, there is no system in place, and that is what the problem is. So in summary, we require the introduction of safeguarding legislation which applies across Irish society, relevant to people's home and old care settings. We want safeguarding legislation, the introduction of care partner scheme that recognises an adult's right to be safe in all care settings, including the private home. By law, every adult must have the right to see one family member or friend safely. By law, every person working with adults must be legally obliged to report concerns about the abuse and neglect of an adult who may not be able to do so themselves due to fear of reprisal or due to frailty, disability or cognitive impairment. As a result of our lived experience, we have formulated the following key asks. Safeguarding legislation, including care partner and mandatory reporting. An individual truth-telling process. Our families, Pat cannot get his wife's records. Our families are frozen in time. They need to know the truth of what happened to their loved ones, no matter what happened. Whether or not there was no staff in the facility, or one staff, or the weren't turned, whatever it may be, because when you know, your mind stops racing. So families back to 2000 are frozen in that time period, and we must find a way that people are provided with an individual truth-telling process if they so wish to have one. A human rights-based investigation which focuses on safeguarding processes used, transparency, compatibility and co-focuses on the human rights of all people. Yesterday we met with Professor Anne Scott, who is leading the COVID evaluation for Ireland. We found her to be very aware, very understanding. She was very willing to listen, and we believe that she intends to achieve as much as she can within the extreme limitations of the terms of references that she has. It will not address the key issues that affect those who were failed in care. She cannot compel documents and witnesses, and our experiences, we can't even find out if there was anybody with our loved ones in the days and weeks leading to their deaths. The model that she has that will be specific to failures in care includes nursing homes, but will not include hospitals, disabilities or those affected in home care. So while we believe that she will do the very best that she can, it is not fit for purpose considering the experiences and failures and systemic failures that we have lived with and highlighted over the past number of years. So for that reason, obviously we need and will continue to demand a human rights-led inquiry that will not only look at the decisions and policies that was made, but ensure that there are appropriate and strong recommendations that we should not be having people like Joanne in 2024 but denied access to her mother. When our Taoiseach and our Taoiseach stands up, how many dozen times have we heard about lessons been learned? Well, they're not there. We still don't have a complaint system. We still don't have safeguarding legislation. We still have nowhere to go when things go wrong. So what we need is less words and waffle. We need action, and we need the people who are in need of care, people who need services at home, people in care to get the care that they need, not waffle.
Before I open up to the floor, just to let everybody that's in the room know, Zoe here in the red top has just got a page. If you wouldn't mind to pop your name and your email address on, and we will send you over the slides and stuff, and if there's any further information you need, or if anybody has any questions, feel free to.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I mean, each one of your stories would make you, do make me very angry. Even just the slides, each individual slide is extremely angry making, and I think back to the meaningful Christmas and how it's kind of whitewashed, and like there's a whole official narrative which is really about forgetting about that, and anything saying we should have had more meaningful Christmases. It's absolutely horrendous. So really fair play to you for doing what you're doing. just practically, I think, like, if we could try and push next week to get, like, I think we should be pushing for a full debate in the Dáil on this, but as an intermediate step, pushing for topical issue debates and commencement matters in the Shannon. If a number of us here, we can, even those who've already left, we can email them on the slide and suggest we all put it in next week. We should be able to get some sort of debate on this and just try and push the government. I think in particular around the sharp edge is the public inquiry on COVID. As again, the government is determined not to learn too many lessons, or certainly not to learn too many hard lessons. Any lessons that would paint them in a bad light, they don't want them to come out. So I think if we all do that, we should get it selected as a topical issue. There will be some sort of debate next week, and we're kind of continuing to push forward. So
that'd be great. David. Before I move on to David, I just want to say thanks to Paul for organising to have us in here today and for giving us
I didn't get my special diet. The person cooking and feeding me knew the diet back to front, inside out. My gastroenterologist was making communication with the HSE, thought this issue. I then was told I could interview young girls to get them on board. I was in pubs, I was in cafes, interviewing girls who I didn't know who the hell they were. And I was 70 years of age. I had no help. I had to drive there. I was ill. I was distressed. And all the nurse could say is, we don't do food. Now, this is why we need safeguarding for people living in the home. We're way out of nursing home at the moment. Nobody knows what happened. For a whole year, I was without my diet, and I'm not even back there yet, if anyone understands chronic gut diseases. But thank you, Care Champion, for what you're doing. I just can't believe your story. I can't believe in an alleged modern society, we really do allow this to happen. And nobody can do a thing. Not a thing. And as for the medical system, you don't have Parkinson's, you just want it. Would you please tell me what consultant tells a woman who has a diagnosed scan that it looks like it? What person would tell a woman who's waiting for 3 hours to see the consultant, you don't have Parkinson's, you just want it? Honest, we need to move forward. I'm sorry.
What we have found is there's a serious issue in reporting. The Gardaí do not have the communication skills to be able to support a person who has been assaulted or who has been seriously harmed if the person is non-verbal or has any communication difficulties. We found similar with the Rape Crisis Centre, and in one of our cases last year, when a person had been sexually assaulted by another resident, witnessed by staff, when the family went to the guards said, but sure, look, she's non-verbal anyway, she probably doesn't even know. That was it.
Oh my God.
So there's serious issues. There's a lot of work to be done.
And as Louise said, a lot of these reports often vanish. Yeah. A concern of ours after yesterday's meeting with Anne Scott was that her only duty with her report is to deliver it to the Taoiseach. There is no promise that that report will ever be publicised. There's no promise that any recommendations will be undertaken. And the first thing she said to us was, you know, this is an evaluation, I am limited in what I can do. She's more than willing to do what is needed to be done if she is given the ability to. But her report is not really worth the paper it's written on if it never gets publicised and no action is taken. So we'd ask for maybe a push for governments to commit to publicising the report. Okay, so thanks so much to everybody that came in today, and we hope you'll join us in our advocacy for a decent standard of care and to stop dressing abuse up as poor standard care. Abuse and neglect is abuse and neglect. Yeah.